Welcome to Artistic Toolshed. Today we will be creating a mug inside of Blender. By the end of this video, you should be able to know how to navigate the Blender interface, understand basic 3D modeling concepts, use essential modeling tools, apply materials to objects, render a simple scene. Step 1. Basics. If you don't have Blender installed, you can go to the official Blender website and install it, or you can use the link in the description. Once you have Blender installed and opened, you will see this screen, and all you have to do is click off. This is your main workspace, called the 3D viewport, where you'll be creating and manipulating 3D objects. Up here is called the navigator. It displays all the objects in your scene. Down here is called the timeline. It is used if you're working on animations. This is where you'll manage keyframes. We will not be animating in this video. If you want to learn how to animate, you can check out some of the other videos. Before we dive in, let's learn how to navigate the 3D viewport. To rotate or orbit, hold down the middle mouse button and move your mouse, or go up here and click and drag this. To move or pan, hold down Shift and middle mouse button and move the mouse. To zoom, all you have to do is use your scroll wheel. Before we move on to the further steps, make sure that you understand how to freely move around the 3D viewport. Step 2. Adding an object. Now that we're familiar with the Blender interface, let's start creating in 3D. We'll begin by adding a basic mesh object to our scene. Look to the left of the 3D view. You'll find the Add menu. Click on it. A list of shapes will appear. For now, let's choose a simple shape. Click on Mesh to reveal options like cube, cylinder, and sphere. Click on cylinder. This will add a basic cylinder to your scene. A shortcut to adding objects is by holding down Shift and A at the same time. This becomes really useful later on when you're adding multiple objects. Once you have added the cylinder to your 3D viewport, click on the arrows on the left side of the screen. This will allow us to move the cylinder up, down, left, and right. Click and drag on any of the 3 arrows that you see. To rotate your cylinder, click on the rotate button right underneath the arrows you clicked earlier. Now you should see circular gizmos in the center of the cylinder. Click and drag on any of the circles to rotate the cylinder. To scale your cylinder, click on the scale button right underneath the rotate button you clicked earlier. Now you should see cube-shaped gizmos. Click and drag on any of the gizmos to scale the cylinder. Now that you understand how to transform your cylinder, undo all of the previous transformations by pressing Ctrl and Z. Before we move on, practice adding a cylinder to your 3D viewport using the steps mentioned. Also practice moving, rotating, and scaling the cylinder using the transformation tools. Step 3. Edit mode. Now that we have our basic cylinder, let's delve into the details of editing its shape. We'll do this by entering edit mode and using fundamental editing tools. To enter edit mode, click on the drop-down menu that says object mode. Once you see the drop-down, click on edit mode. Now that you are in edit mode, you will see your cylinder as a multitude of different points called vertices. There are 3 kinds of selections in edit mode: vertex selection, edge selection, and face selections. In this tutorial, we will only be needing face selection, so click on the face selection button to the right of the edit mode drop-down. Once you're on face selection, click on the top face of the cylinder and press X and delete faces to remove it from the 3D viewport. Before we move on, practice moving, rotating, and scaling specific vertices, edges, or faces in edit mode, but be sure to undo any transformations before we move on. Step 4. Solidify. To exit edit mode, click the drop-down that says edit mode in the top right and click object mode. Next, we will go to the right side of the screen and click the little wrench icon. This is called the modifier properties. After you are on the screen, click on the add modifier button. Add the solidify modifier. Once you have added the solidify modifier, you should see a panel of options pop up in the modifier properties. Turn up the thickness from 0 to 0.1. Step 5. Adding a handle. To add a handle to the cup, add a torus by going to the Add menu, Meshes, and clicking Torus, or pressing Shift and A, Meshes, and clicking Torus there. Now that we have a torus in our 3D viewport, Move the cylinder out of the way using the Move tool that we used earlier. Next, go to Edit Mode by either pressing Tab or pressing Object Mode and switching to Edit Mode. Then go to Wireframe Mode by holding down Z and go to Wireframe Mode. Switch from Face Select to Vertex Select. Either press 7 on your keypad or go to the top right of your viewport and click the Z on the axis. Deselect all of the vertices by clicking off of the torus. Then click and drag to box, select the bottom half of the torus. Once the bottom half of the vertices are selected, click X and delete vertices. Now exit wireframe view back into solid view by holding down Z and going to solid. Next, exit edit mode by pressing Tab or going to the drop-down menu that says edit mode and change it to object mode. After you have exited edit mode, transform your newly edited torus until it looks like a handle on your mug by rotating, scaling, and moving. Once you are happy with how your handle looks, we can move on to the next step. Step 6. Materials. Before we change the materials, we need to change to Material Preview. To do this, hold down Z and press Material Preview. Now that we are in Material Preview, go to Material Properties on the right. Then click on New. This will create for us a new material. If you want your mug to be a different color beside white, click on Base Color and change the color. Next, let's make the mug less rough by turning down the roughness parameter a little. If you want to make your mug metallic, then turn up the metallic parameter. Experiment with all of the parameters and see how it affects how the mug looks. Once you're happy with the material of the mug, then select the handle of your mug by left-clicking on it. Now that you have selected the mug handle, click on the Material Browser to the left of the New Material button. Select the material that you have just made. It should be called Material or Material 001. If you want to make an entirely different material for your mug handle, do not select your old material. Instead, make a new material and alter the parameters until you're happy with how it looks. Step 7. Lighting. Once you are happy with how your mug looks, change to Rendered View by pressing Z and select Rendered. Next, go to Add Light, Area Light. This will add an area light to the 3D viewport. Then, with the light selected, go to the Object Data Properties and turn up the power. After you have the power right, move the light to where you want it to be using the Move tool, Rotate tool, and the Scale tool. If you want more than one light, select the light, then hit Ctrl and D to duplicate the light, and then move the new light to where you want it. Keep adding more lights until you are happy with how your scene is lit up. Once you are happy with how your scene looks, add a camera to the scene by going to Add Camera. Next, position the camera so that it is pointing towards the mug. To see what the camera sees, click the camera icon underneath the axis at the top right of the viewport. Step 8. Decoration and rendering. If you want to make your mug really pop, then add items to your scene such as icospheres, cubes, UV spheres. This is where you can use your creativity to make a background that you like. Once you feel like you're done, go to the far top left of your screen and click Render Image. To save your rendered and complete image to your computer, click Image, then Save As. Conclusion. Congratulations! You just made a mug in Blender. In this video, you learned how to navigate the Blender interface, how to make objects and transform them, how to use edit mode and basic editing, what the Solidify modifier is, how to make materials, how to make basic lighting, how to render your image. This is just the beginning of your Blender journey. The world of 3D modeling is vast and full of possibilities. Continue to experiment, push your creative boundaries, and discover the incredible features Blender has to offer.